Washington State comes out that it's leading the nation in overdoses and it is trailing the nation in business growth. Gee, I wonder why. This segment is brought to you in partnership with our friends at Future 42. Turn your frustration into action at future42.org. All right, let's start with this article from Axios. The headline, overdose deaths rose in Washington as they fell nationwide. So sort of a top line statistic here. Between May 2023 and April 2024, Washington saw nearly 3,600 overdose deaths. Think about that. Through a 1 year period of time, 3,600 people in our state died of overdose deaths. It's a 14% increase over the previous 12 months, according to the CDC, while nationwide, overdose deaths fell by 10% over the same time frame. So across the country, overdoses are down 10% on average. In Washington State, up 14%. Last year alone, during this time frame, we lost 3,600 Washingtonians to overdoses. In King County, and it's trying to give like a positive spin on this, in King County, overdose deaths were down in the first half of this year, the county health agency told Axios. Oh my gosh, that's great. Okay. So we had over that period of time, 14% increase, but in the first half of this year, King County Health is saying that actually overdose deaths are down. It says in the first 6 months of 2024, Public Health Seattle King County distributed 54,000 kits containing the overdose reversing medication naloxone, far more than the 30,000 distributed in 2023. And the 13,000 distributed in 2022. Each kit contains 2 doses of the drug commonly known as Narcan. So that's why in the first 6 months of the year, overdose deaths are down, because you've distributed 54,000 kits, each of them containing 2 doses of Narcan. So we're not making people better. That's not why overdoses are trending down in the first 6 months of this year, despite last year them being up 14%, while everywhere else in the nation, mostly they're on the decline. So you want to say, well, oh, wow, but in the first 6 months of the year, we're turning this thing around, fewer overdose deaths. It's because you're giving people a drug that temporarily saves their lives so they live another day to try to kill themselves again. And we're supposed to be happy about that, be proud about that. Look, I'm glad they're not dying, right? But we have no system in place. You hand those kits out and you've got somebody, they revive someone on the street, or they, revive a friend they're doing drugs with, or whatever it is. They pop back to life and they just keep doing fentanyl. It's not like there's some mandate for treatment, as we'll talk about later on in the show. It's not like there's some mandate that, hey, we give you this kit, but we need you to go to treatment. No, it's just like, hey, you're doing fentanyl? Cool. You keep doing it. Here's a couple doses of drugs. They'll bring you right back to life if you OD on it, and you can keep using. Then when you go through both those, come on back, and we'll give you more. And every time that you're unconscious for a minute or whatever it is, you're getting more brain dead and more brain dead and more brain dead. And we're supposed to act as if this is an absolute success. Overdose deaths are down. No, you've just prolonged their suffering, and until you intervene, and unless you intervene, they're still going to die. They're just probably going to die in a couple months. So that headline, and then there was another headline that came out nationally that, again, makes us look ridiculous. And I think what's interesting about this one is it is from a progressive institute, and it was pushed out there. Again, it's a national story, so the focus wasn't on Washington State, but it's from a progressive institute that did this. You can tell by reading the article, because they wanted to make a point that the economy is just humming right along under Biden-Harris, right? So keep in mind, that's the point of this. We're painting a national picture through this data of an economy that's in very good shape because, as they say, entrepreneurship, startups, and business formation are booming across the U.S. It's from the Center for American Progress. So they put out this map, right? And it says the number of businesses grew in 85% of counties. So across the country from 2019 to 2023, if you're watching the show, all those blue areas, and the deeper the blue, the more businesses are growing. New businesses, etc., entrepreneurship. But then on the map, you notice this little wee state up in the upper left-hand corner that's pretty solid orange. That in Washington State, business growth is way, way down during a period where the rest of the country, most of the rest of the country, even freaking California and Oregon, seem to be doing great when it comes to new businesses. So King County, minus 5,000, Snohomish County, minus 800. Pierce County minus 2,300, talking about 10% decline. Even you go further east, Yakima's even worse, 22% decline in the number of businesses. Grant County, 18% decline. Adams County, 22%. Spokane, down 6%. So we have every county in the state. There's not one county, except there's one in the upper left. It must be one of the island counties that has had a slight increase in the number of businesses. But for other counties, businesses have truly suffered. And I think there's a variety of reasons for that, right? We had some of the strictest lockdowns of any state in the nation. But what else did we do during that time period? We passed a tax on capital gains. And what have we been saying about a tax on capital gains? Well, why would any entrepreneur come here? Why would anyone start a business here when that's a brand new tax that you've laid out? They're saying, well, gosh, if my business becomes really successful or whatever it is, I'm going to pay a lot out of pocket in capital gains. And then you combine that with the homeless crisis, the situation going on in the downtown cores with drug abuse. I mean, we heard from a restaurant owner in Spokane closing their business because of concerns over drug use and crime outside. It's a very anti-business atmosphere here. And again, progressives can't argue with this. It's from a progressive institute. It's from the Center for American Progress. And they're literally doing it as a story bragging about business growth across the country. And then what's also funny is when you look at the large graph, it's like some of the reddest states, like Florida, you look at Idaho, Montana, things are going great. And it's a progressive institute bragging about this. And then you look at one of the most progressive states in the union, and business growth here is absolutely in the gutter. I want to read you just this paragraph from it. It says, evidence since 2021 suggests that these troubling signs have reversed themselves and that we are in the midst of a startup boom. This boom in business formation could be meaningful for local economies. More new businesses can lead to more job creation, faster productivity growth, and stronger wage growth. New businesses can also increase competition and decrease corporate concentration, boosting wages and reducing prices. So think about that for a second. Again, from a progressive institute like this is great. When we have all these new businesses, 85% of counties across the country have this staggering new business growth, and that can help decrease corporate concentration, boost wages, and reduce prices. Isn't that the stuff that like Washington officials talk about all the time? Like, oh, anti-big business, anti-corporations, we need higher wages. Yet all of their policies are leading to the exact opposite outcome that other areas are seeing because we have a major decline in new business growth. And so, yeah, then you want to complain about, oh, corporate consolidation, corporate concentration, oh, wages aren't as high as they should be, etc. Well, you haven't created an environment that fosters higher wages. You haven't created an environment that fosters competition and reduces corporate consolidation. And this makes it very clear. So you have these two back-to-back headlines nationally that when you look and think about all the things that our state, is focused on, well, overdoses are up, rest of the country is doing much better, business growth is down, rest of the country is doing much better. You have to look at that and wonder, okay, well, do we keep doing the same thing that we've been doing, or do we go a different direction? Do we do things that are actually more positive for businesses? Do we actually take meaningful efforts to address the fentanyl crisis, the drug crisis, the crime crisis? Because they're all tied together. You can't bifurcate these two things. You can't bifurcate the drug crisis we have with the declining business environment because they're connected. You have businesses in that used to be some of the most economically vibrant areas of our state that don't want to be there because of the drug crisis, which fuels the homeless crisis, which fuels the crime crisis. And so in order to fix the business climate, we have to fix the crime crisis, we have to fix the drug climate. And if you fail to do that, then you're going to fail to help our state economically. So it's just embarrassing when I see all these other issues that our state is focused on. Well, it's getting the fundamental things absolutely wrong. That segment is brought to you in partnership with our friends over at Future 42. Turn your frustration into action at future42.org.